Unfortunately, none of you have been watching my videos long enough to know two things. One, that I've pointed out that the Irish are the ones who brought the blacks into Masonry, the Prince Halls. Two, that the Irish bikers made an alliance with the Aryan Brotherhood. Now, it was an Irish, whose name starts with MC or Mick, that did the New York Times article, and it was an Irish Democrat feminist who introduced Laura's Law. Helen Thompson. Helen MacLeod Thompson, a member of the YOLO Board of Supervisors and former Democratic Assemblywoman from California's 8th Assembly District. She was the first of what have become 3 consecutive women from Davis to be elected to the seat, followed by Louise Wolk and Mariko Yamada. She lives in Davis with her husband, Captain P. Thompson, MD, a practicing psychiatrist. Don't any of you think that that's a conflict of interest? She has a husband who's a psychiatrist, and she introduced a bill that has to do with psychiatry. It has to do with compulsory community treatment, just like compulsory sterilization, unethical experiments on children. There was a certain judge, I forgot his name, I think it was Judge Nash from LA, an LA district judge, I believe, who said that we're experimenting on our children. He sees it the same way that I do. Yes, psychiatry is an experiment. If you don't know that, you're an idiot. They're always taking drugs off the market. They're always adjusting doses, and they're using the records to decide how to proceed in the future. So obviously, by definition, it is an experiment. And it is a pseudoscience, heavily influenced by Buddhism and atheism, and the philosophy of science, which is really the philosophy of pseudoscience, because we see where Masonry's philosophies have brought us in the past. Francis Galton was a Mason, and for all these reasons and more, I swear to God, so help me God, I will never take any deals from you people. After all you've done, I've proven definitively that you're trying to provoke me to get me compulsory treatment. I mean, it is sick. It is sick. Anyway, the studies prove that compulsory treatment doesn't work. Okay, those clinical trials. One of them found that in the different groups, the people who had 12 months of compulsory treatment, the people at 12 months, the people who had more compulsory treatment did not differ from the other group when it came to being the readmission rate. The number of patients readmitted did not differ between the two groups. This is the words they use. At 12 months, despite the fact that the length of initial compulsory outpatient treatment differed significantly between the two groups, median 183 days CTO group versus 8 days Section 17 group, the number of patients readmitted did not differ between the group, 59, 36% of 166 patients, versus 60, 36% of 167 patients, approximately. In this Section 17 group, adjusted relative risk. So, why didn't they differ? If this treatment works, it doesn't. And it was a feminist Democrat. I've told you time ago, it is liberals doing this. It is liberals doing this. And I'm not saying the Republican Party is perfect, but it is liberals doing this psychiatric stuff. I've said it the whole time. And then you have these Irish secret societies, on record. They're up to their eyeballs in secret societies. Anyone who's looked into it knows that. And is that irrelevant? You'd have to be an idiot to think so. And you have the Irish gangs in Chicago that on record became the police force. You had the Irish alliance with the Nazis and the occultists, because they were the big white groups of criminals. You had the neo-Nazi white criminal groups going to prison as groups and as in large numbers. You had the bikers going into prison as groups and in large numbers. Then you had the kind of Satanist, satanic occultist movement in the 60s, and the late 50s, that brought in a lot of occultists into the prison system. And then, it was the early members that made the alliance that became the Aryan Brotherhood. So the study, the community treatment for patients with psychosis, OCTET, a randomized controlled trial by Professor Tom Burns, DSc, Joran Rugaksa, PhD, Andrew Molodinsky, MB, CHB, John Dawson, LLD, Kasinja Yilis, BSc, Maria Vasquez Montes, PhD, Marion Vossi Umbiastat, Julia Sinclair DeFil, and Professor Stephen Priebe, FRC Psych, found those results. The first study, they said, we found little evidence that compulsory community treatment was affected in any of the main outcome indices. Talking about, that's a plural of indices. Social functioning didn't increase, mental state, quality of life, satisfaction with care. So this, when Willie Brown went on the news, he said, these people will thank you later. He found somebody will thank you later. It's all propaganda. The studies prove definitively that they're wrong. And you know what's so sick about this? In my research, sorting through almost entirely valid sources, I've found that alternative news, including Alex Jones, has been more reliable on the subject of psychiatry than any mainstream news network except for RT. And some people say that RT is manipulated by the Russian government. Okay, and that to me is despicable, that every mainstream American news station that is acknowledged as such was not as reliable as alternative news on the topic of psychiatry. And that is disgusting. You might find some frivolous conspiracy theories, but the key point, that psychiatry is a fraud with ulterior motives. To me, it is very apparent that following history, the Italian, the Jewish, and the Irish mobsters, among others, have all gone into mental health as the new bootlegging. Mental health is the new bootlegging industry. Psychiatry, big pharma. This is the modern day bootlegging, where they control the law enforcement, Pfizer Global Security, the Irish, the Italian, the Asian mobs, and the Jewish mobs all control the pharmaceutical sector. They also control law enforcement that is supposed to regulate them, and Freemasonry is a means for them to share state secrets and violate confidentiality agreements and make secret rulings, secret proceedings, and secret oaths. It is all the lowly, godless heathens who have always plagued society with partially legal activities, walking the fine line between legal and illegal, with shady laws, which I believe was the Volstead Act, or whatever it was, that banned alcohol. And then they found a way around it. Just like there was the Nuremberg Code that banned unethical experimentation, and these same criminals who decades earlier found a way around the Volstead Act, found a way around the Nuremberg Code and the UN mandates and resolutions and what have you. This is organized crime having gone completely liberal, having gone completely into the pharmaceutical sector, while maintaining a very weak, amount of control over illegal activities. Now, when you look at the mafia, for example, the Italian mafia, they didn't want to sell drugs. Why? because they said it brought them too much heat. But the pharmaceutical sector did not bring them so much heat, now did it? Where are the movies about the mob and big pharma? They don't exist. Where's the newspaper articles? They don't exist. So they have been operating with impunity, under the radar of the average person's understanding of the general population. But those careful observers who know how to connect very obvious dots that scream that they are part of the picture, definitively, it is a walk in the park for a brain surgeon's son, the top martial artist, and somebody who has been an avid reader, who has done his due diligence, and has researched with motivation for a cause, with passion, to figure this thing out. Organized crime, secret societies, the government, the pharmaceutical sector, and everything quote unquote American all overlap. See, what you're seeing here is the next phase of American history. And I have no doubt that one day it will be mainstream history that the pharmaceutical sector was part of mafia clandestine activities, racketeering, and the exploitation of the working man. I have no doubt that when that occurs, they will move on to their next racket, and it will almost certainly have something to do with technology. They are all despicable criminals. And I tell Hollywood ahead of time that when you glorify these pedophiles, on record, Captain Thompson, Helen Thompson, the feminist Democrat who introduced Laura's Law, is a psychiatrist who defended a pedophile. There is no shortages of connections between organized crime, mental health, the government, and pedophiles. Because let's face it, rich people who have an inordinate influence on politics are disproportionately pedophiles, just like homosexuals. And it is no coincidence that rich people are also disproportionately homosexuals. These esoteric Eberts have no scruples or values. All they know is greed and lust, criminality, atheism, Satanism, feminism, LGBT-friendly nonsense, twisting everything that is sacred. I tell you the truth. Just like in ancient Rome, where these people killed their own family for power, these are the lowly materialistic dogs that will fuck goats, in fact they have, that will sacrifice children, in fact they have, no matter how you slice it. Even if you want to deny that there are ritual sacrifices, you certainly must acknowledge that they are sacrificing the foster children and America's youth with their psychiatric experimentations that kill 500,000 people in Western countries alone annually. No matter how you slice it, they are a bunch of pedophile, mass murdering, greedy, selfish, soulless scum. And anyone who would glorify them is complicit with their depravity, their criminality, and their satanic oppression. I am Chukwu Emeka, the top martial artist, and I have all of these pussies, their subordinates, all martial artists hiding like a bitch from my top martial artist challenge. I'm over 100-0, none of them are. I am persecuted by the government for being uncontrolled opposition. None of them are. I am a man of God. None of them are. I am the best. Thank you.